Hey everyone, Andrew Rains with Apex Pro. Just wanted to do a quick heat map review here. Appreciate Boxer 11 for submitting this at the Ridge Motorsports Park in his Cayman GT4. Awesome car. I've had the good fortune to do a couple of laps in one of those and I absolutely loved it. So this is super cool. So as I mentioned in my previous video, I used the heat map to give me an indication of what the device is showing me on track. So really important to develop our peripheral learning skills, our peripheral ability to start to see everything while we're driving. And a lot of instructors, myself, I know Robbie Foley does this, who's one of our Apex team members. He might chime in on this as well. And I'm sure Peter does as well, as we focus on building that peripheral awareness so that we're seeing everything around us. That doesn't necessarily mean we're looking at everything around us. That means that because we're naturally we're in a state of tunnel vision when we first get into the race car, we're starting to relax and expand our view of what's going on around us, which is when Apex becomes really, really powerful. So what I'm going to show you guys here on this heat map is a couple of places where I think next time out we can go look at, get an idea of what the device is showing us as we come into these corners. And most of the places that I think we have to improve in this car are braking zone and corner entry. The car is really balanced mid-corner. The car placement on the track, for the most part, I think is really good. I don't have experience at this track myself, but it looks like a super fun track, and it looks very familiar to some places that I do have experience. So something I want to hit on first is this yellow stripe. So the basic thing that we've covered already is that if we see a warm color, yellow, orange, red, that means we're underutilizing the tire. That means the device was showing red lights. So what it's meant to do is show us a place, hey, maybe look at the device next time out as you turn into one. Maybe get an idea of what it's telling us. So that's a fast corner. We're not going to fixate our eyes on the device. We're going to be looking ahead. But there was enough red lights, and I'll watch it initially on the turn on the video here. There's enough red lights as we turn into one that should give us an indication that we can roll more speed into the corner. So watching the video right now on the brakes, we get an almost all the way full bar of lights. We're about a 9 out of 10 on the brake pedal. We're scrubbing speed down from 137 miles an hour to about 93 miles an hour at the apex. So first thing I know right away is that we're only scrubbing 40 miles an hour. And in this car, scrubbing 40 miles an hour happens extremely fast. Lots of tire, lots of brake, very balanced car. And especially in a momentum car, we really don't threshold brake as much as we think we need to. I'm of the opinion that I don't think this is a threshold braking corner. What I would do here, my recommendation to get rid of this yellow stripe next time out, and from what the device is showing me in the video, as soon as we release the brakes, right now in the video you're back to about 20% brake input, and there's 3 red LEDs on the device. And we're about to initiate our steering. We're just now initiating our steering. So we're coming off the brakes about 10% on the brake pedal, about a 1 out of 10, and our hands are turning just very slightly, and the light bar is half red lights. What that's showing me right there is that we overslowed. So our initial brake input was too strong. So what I would suggest next time, this is a fast corner, what I would suggest is instead of braking later, brake less. All right, slow the car down a little bit less, but brake in the same spot so that it's not a demanding, challenge to just, we still have that security that the brake pedal's under your foot, you're still using it, but I know for a fact that the car has more in it, right? So just brake a little bit less, really adhere to that string theory principle, and I would actually recommend turning the steering wheel just an instant sooner. And by an instant, I mean just, 5% steering, just a little bit sooner. Load that right front tire just that much more progressively, and that's going to enable you to roll more speed to the apex more confidently instead of adding a good bit of steering input and getting a later apex. Now, we do want to ultimately get somewhat of a late apex on this corner because it's going to tighten up, right? So we don't necessarily want to run too early of an apex, but this is also, I think, an entry speed corner because we're going right back to the brakes here to go up the hill. So because we're not accelerating hard as we exit turn 1 here, we really want to focus on our minimum speed at the apex because at 93 miles an hour, right there at the apex is our minimum speed. If we can make that 95 miles an hour and still get on the brakes at the same place, still slow the car down to make this next turn as we go up the hill, that's going to yield lap time increase. So that's one of those situations where we really don't want to go slow in, fast out. So that's how we want to get rid of that little yellow stripe right there. Now, as we go up the hill, we're going to see a couple of red lights before we turn in there, but that looked really good into turn 2 as we go up the hill here. then the car grips up a lot on the face of the hill, which is why we see that yellow stripe right there. What it's saying to me is that if we roll more speed through the corner and maybe brake a little bit less right here, there's more grip available as the car crests and goes up the hill, which I think is reasonable given the grade of the hill right there. This part of the track all looks really good right there here. What I really found something that I love about Apex that I think is awesome, using it with street tires, and I just saw it. We just heard that tire squeal in the background in the video. You're about to get on the throttle to accelerate out of this corner right here. You hear the tire squeal just a little bit, and the device turns full green at the same exact time. That is confidence inspiring to me. That was one of the things that convinced me, okay, this thing, it's using machine learning. It's comparing more variables than I can in my head at once, right? It knows more than I do about the handling potential of the car because it's able to measure a lot more than I can and put it together in a sensical way. All right, now we're accelerating out of here. This looks like really good car placement to me. Just a cool part of the track right there here. And then we're going to get hard on the brakes right here. Now I'm watching the device, and I saw that transition. That orange spot right there I think was our transition from throttle to brake, which was pretty quick. I wouldn't be too worried about that. But I did see ABS intervene. Too much initial brake input here, I think, because ABS started to kick in. So I saw your brake pressure spike, and then that red bar of brake pressure went up and down, showing me that there was some ABS intervention. I'll look at it again. Pretty interesting. Yep, a little bit ABS right there. And I hear the tire squeal as well. That's a good indication that we've got a little ABS intervention, which means we've exceeded the limit of the tire, which, again, I don't know that we want to carry threshold brake for very long in this corner, so maybe adjust something there. But this corner looks like a really good progression. I wouldn't focus too much energy on it because I think you're getting a really good exit here. Now, as we head down the hill here, I believe this was turn 7. I'm not 100% positive. Pull up the track map. We're coasting a little bit through this part of the track right here, which I think is why we get this underutilization of the tire on braking as we come down the hill right here. Yeah. Yep, that's what I'm thinking. I think that there should be a little bit less of a coast as you come down the hill right in this area. And that's going to allow you to shape up this corner a little bit better. That's what I would focus on through there to get rid of that yellow stripe. This part of the track looks great. Next thing I want to focus on is this a little bit more than 90-degree right-hander here. I think it's turn 12. I'm going to get the video to where we're going into that corner. Looks like a really interesting corner to me. All right, so we're going through this hairpin right here on the back side of the track. Going to get a nice late apex on the throttle early, accelerating out second gear, up to third, or leaving it in second, I'm sorry. Yeah, so this is a pretty tight corner. All right, so let's dissect this one. So what we're seeing here, again, this is an interesting corner. Now, this is a corner where our initial focus is on getting on the throttle early because we've got this little straightaway that we want to maximize our speed down, right? That's important. We want to get on the throttle early before a long straightaway, right? Turn 7 at Road Atlanta, turn the Oak Tree at VIR, all great examples. So our car placement's going to be kind of for a late apex. That's what we want to do. But the faster we go, the more capable we become as drivers, the more we start to worry about our entry speed. We know a late apex is safe. We know getting on the throttle is going to yield big lap time gains initially, but now we're confident getting on the throttle at or before the apex. It's a mid-engine car. This car's got a lot of capability right when it's loaded the most. The chassis is very neutral. So what I want to focus on here is what we can do before the apex to improve our speed and to improve how we get down the straightaway. So what I want to look at is our minimum corner speed, which it's awesome that it's overlaid in this video. This makes this super easy. So we've got 46 miles an hour min corner speed at the apex there, right in that more than 90-degree right-hander. So I would make the argument, and I would love to hear what other people say about this. We use almost all the track on the exit. Looks like the car goes there pretty nicely, but I think the entry could have been hustled a little bit more, and I think, again, because we're in second gear here, the car's going to naturally be pretty tight. I think we might have overslowed just a little bit, because as soon as you get off the brake pedal, the engine's still at 5,000 RPM in second gear. Okay, so the car's going to be really, really tight. All right, it's gonna have just that natural, tenseness in the drivetrain that's going to create a little bit of braking for you. And no matter what you do to get around it, That's feeling still going to be there. And I think it's the proper gear because you're still pulling it all the way out of the corner there. I don't know if third would be too tall or not to hustle through that corner. But what I would try as we enter this corner right here, I'm going to pull it up one more time. Kind of goes downhill just very slightly on entry. So I saw a pretty firm initial brake input. We're right at the rev limiter before we hit the brakes there. All right, 3 red lights right as the car's kind of gripping up. We're at 47 miles an hour. We're back to the power about probably 30 or 40 feet before the apex. What that tells me, because we're on the power that early, what that tells me is that we could have rolled more speed to the apex, in my opinion, based off of this video and what the apex is showing me. I think that there's a little bit more speed to be had on corner entry that won't necessarily hurt you on the exit. And we do get a good bit of curb right here at the apex of the corner. Now that's up to you to decide. What I'm looking at on the video, though, the chassis looks like it could accept full throttle right at the apex, but you're at about 70% throttle as the right side of the car goes up over the curb. What if you were 3 or 4 inches further track left at the apex instead of having the right side of the car on the curb and you were at 100% throttle about 10 feet earlier? I think that would be an improvement. So maybe try avoiding the apex curbing there and seeing if that yields more speed down the ensuing straightaway. And also I would work on the same thing we talked about in turn 1, which is slower hands on turn in, maybe brake in the same exact place, but brake a little lighter. A little bit lighter brake input. Really only use as much brake as you need to provide grip to the front tires. And I think that's going to make that yellow stripe that we're seeing on the apex go away, because that is telling me right there that there's more grip as you turn the steering wheel. Now, last place I want to look at is this exit out of the final corner. So we'll fast forward there on the video. Yeah, this track looks awesome. It falls away really nicely. This tight part of the track here looks pretty technical. And then this is like a classic late apex, early throttle application type corner where we're going all the way to the edge of the track. Okay, that's a tricky corner because the radius continues as you exit onto the front straightaway. Yep, so as soon as our hands straighten there, we're at full throttle, and I'm seeing a couple red lights on the apex. Yeah, that's a tricky corner. I really like it. So what I'm thinking there we want to be careful of in a momentum car is only drive the car all the way to that far outside curbing if it takes you there on its own, right? Don't force it to go there. Don't add steering input to get that wide. I think that getting all the way to that cone that's on the exit of this very final corner might be a little too much, a little more distance, because distance is, especially in a traction limited car, running more distance sometimes can help because you can get on the throttle earlier, and if you're traction limited, that helps you get the hands straight sooner. I don't think this car is traction limited. This is more of a momentum car. So unless the car is forcing you to go there, I would stay a little bit tighter, run less distance, and make the lap shorter on that initial turn in. And I think you'd still be able to get in the throttle in the same place. That's just my input there, clued in by that yellow strip on the exit with apex. Very interesting. Well, I hope that was helpful. I'm happy to do more. Again, like I said, I try to use this as a very, very brief in-between sessions kind of tool and reminder of, okay, this is a place I want to work on next time. This is what I want to work on next time. And then I go out on my outlap and I try to get a really good idea of what my peripheral indication on the apex device is showing me, and that builds awareness for it. That's how we teach ourselves to use it. That's how we build that peripheral vision, because once we see the device everywhere on the track, once it's easy to understand what it's saying, then changing what you're doing and trying something new to improve is so easy. And it's an educated guess now. It's not a well, I think a little bit less brake here and rolling more speed is going to be faster. It's a, hey, I am braking too much here, as evidenced by all the red lights sustained under braking. Easy as that. There's nothing else on the market that can give you that kind of indication that quickly. But it does require that input of, let me understand what the device is showing me, because we have that tunnel vision effect on the track. And every time we put a new gauge in the car, we have to learn how to see it. And that's as much a part of using this tool as anything else, is just learning how to see it. So I really appreciate you guys being a part of this. I really enjoyed this. I'm going to go ahead and stop the session here. Feel free to ask questions. We might chime in a little bit more later. Thanks.